Jake Paul's TKO stoppage of Ben Askren. An early stoppage or the right call by the ref? Did Ben Askren get totally screwed here, or was this just the referee protecting the former MMA fighter? Was Ben Askren fully capable to continue fighting, or did Triller Fight Club put the fix in for their young YouTube fighter? Let's consult the film footage and find out. Real quick, this is Kiwi MMA, and if you guys enjoy combat sports breakdowns, then please subscribe to the channel below. And please leave me your thoughts in the comments if you think this TKO stoppage was justified or not. Okay, let's get into this. So, real quick, one big thing we need to keep in mind here is, what exactly is the criteria for determining a TKO in boxing? Of course, a TKO is any time a fight is stopped without the referee counting to 10 due to events that occurred legally. That's considered a TKO. Basically, the referee makes a judgment call in the moment that the fighter is unable to continue. And there's a lot of ways to determine this, fighter taking too much punishment, cuts and swelling, doctor stoppage of the fight, etc. But what are the actual signs the referee is looking for to help determine whether or not the fight should be called off or not? Well, the general method is to just ask the boxer, are you alright? How are you doing? Expect an intelligent response back. Check for good muscle tone and the ability to stand without assistance or holding anything for support. Balance is key. They don't want to see anything wobbly, typically. Sometimes they'll have the boxer put his hands up and resist the referee's attempt to push them back or down. The fighter, of course, has to want to continue and express this to the referee. And a crucial thing here is attentiveness and mindfulness to the ref. Like, eye contact is huge. The fighter needs to be completely present to the referee and showing his attentiveness that he wants to continue. So with this TKO methodology in mind, let's take a look and see if Ben met this criteria that the ref would be looking for to continue. So of course we know the combo that ends the fight. Jake just throws a simple jab right overhand, and of course Ben drops his left hand, his guard's low, and the punch lands right over the top. It lands on his chin, but also like right behind the ear, so it's kind of an equilibrium shot, so it's no wonder his balance got taken away. But Ben drops like a sack of potatoes here. His legs go stiff. He's very lucky his head didn't hit the canvas, because, that might have been the end. So the ref steps in and sends Jake over to his corner to wait. Meanwhile, Ben is already getting up. And he's up right when the referee gets to 5 in the 10 count. Now, notice, right when Ben gets up, he actually stumbles backwards towards the ropes. Now, remember we mentioned balance is key. So, it's not a good look for Ben that he's, stumbling backwards like that. Now, he is still maintaining eye contact with the referee, which is a good sign. Meanwhile, Jake thought this fight was potentially over, so proceeds to showboat. But when he sees Ben gets up, he immediately looks back and readies himself to continue fighting. At this point, Ben's gaze kind of turns away from the ref over towards Jake. Now, the ref notices this, so he looks over at Jake, and I don't know why he does this. He sticks his hand out, and he's trying to tell him back to your corner, but the way he does it literally looks like when the ref sticks their hands out, to signal both the fighters to come forward and continue the action. I mean, it's like instant. Like the second the ref flicks his hand out like this, Jake comes right forward. And as we'll see, this might have actually played into the stoppage potentially. So the ref tells him back to your corner. Jake moves back, and then the ref sticks out his hand again, which confuses Jake, so he tries to come forward a second time. The ref again says back to your corner. Jake goes back to his corner, but notice this entire time Ben is focusing his attention partially on the ref, but also partially on Jake. And this is obviously because Jake was creeping forward. I don't think this was intentional on Jake's part. He probably just wanted to finish the fight and was anxious to get it going. But Ben's attention is divided here. And that's not, you don't want that in this sort of situation. His attention needs to be solely focused on the referee and his instructions. And with Jake creeping forward like this, that's not a good look for the referee. It's interesting. There's like a trio of distraction going on here because Ben's trying to focus on the ref, but he's getting distracted by Jake. The ref is trying to do the standing 10 count, but he's getting distracted by Jake, so he looks back. And then Jake is misinterpreting the ref's behavior of, hey, go back to your corner as, no, let's continue the fight. So it's a very discombobulated situation. And it's almost like all parties are kind of to blame here because Ben shouldn't be looking at Jake. He should be focusing his attention on the ref. But the ref should have just finished the 10 count and focused his attention on Ben, but he looks back on Jake. And Jake should have just stayed in his corner and not come forward whatsoever. So it's like a weird chain of events here. Ben's looking at Jake causes the ref to stop the 10 count, and the ref gets distracted, and the ref sticking his hands out causes Jake to come forward, and then there's more confusion. So I feel like this was kind of handled poorly. I mean, let's compare this to, say, Deontay Wilder knocking down Tyson Fury. I mean, here, all parties involved act accordingly, right? Deontay Wilder gets completely out of the field of play so that there's no distraction for the ref or Tyson Fury. The ref can focus his sole attention on Tyson and actually finish the 10 count. And Tyson, of course, despite being knocked down, is completely aware and is able to, focus his attention solely on the ref and follow his instructions. So yeah, just kind of a train wreck there, and this is all due to Ben's lack of experience in a boxing ring. Jake is a professional on paper, but he's still somewhat inexperienced, relatively speaking. And I don't know, maybe even this ref was, maybe a little bit caught off guard by the moment. Who knows? So at this point, the ref actually looks over at Ben and says to him, hey, you all right? And Ben does the right thing. He nods his head, looks directly at the ref and says, yeah. Then the ref says something to the extent of, "Come here, let me come here," is kind of what I'm hearing, and he gestures with his hands like, "Come forward." As we mentioned, of course, refs do this to check for balance, coordination, if you can follow instructions, etc. From what I can tell, he's clearly gesturing Ben to come forward. Okay, and this is where this goes wrong for Ben. Jake is again creeping forward and bracing himself for the fight to continue in his stance, and Ben sees this and turns his attention away from the referee. Right when the referee has asked him to walk forward, he walks kind of off into the side like he's going towards Jake. Now again, Jake shouldn't be in that situation. He should be off in his corner away from the field of action, but he is, and the ref didn't see it, so that is what it is. I don't think Jake was doing anything intentional here. I just think he was anxious to get back to the fight. Now what Ben should have done here is turn himself directly in front of the ref, looked him dead in the eye, and just walked straight forward towards him. Now some people were saying that Ben was on wobbly legs here. I don't see it. It doesn't look like he's on wobbly legs. It looks like he's kind of walking off into the side to kind of, get at an angle for Jake when the action resumes. But the main point is his attention is solely on Jake, and it shouldn't be on Jake. It should be straight on the referee. So the second the ref sees that Ben can't maintain eye contact with him, and also that he doesn't walk directly towards him, he kind of walks off to the side, the ref makes the judgment call and calls the fight. So in conclusion, was this a bad stoppage from the referee? I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I also would argue that it should have been continued. I mean, Ben was on wobbly legs initially, but there's examples like I bring up where boxers were on way more wobbly legs and the fight was continued. If you want an example, look up Richard Comey versus Isaiah Shaniev for the IBF lightweight world title. I mean, Shaniev is stumbling around like a drunken sailor, but he's looking at the ref and he's focused his attention on the ref. And when the ref tells him to come forward, Shaniev comes forward straight at the referee. So the ref lets the fight continue. It's unfortunate because Ben was on less wobbly legs and I think was even more aware and in it. But because he gets distracted by Jake and turns his attention away from the ref misinterprets his behavior. And that's the thing. I do think the ref is to blame for misinterpreting Ben's behavior and calling this fight too short. But I also blame Ben for lacking the composure and the understanding to follow his instructions correctly. And Jake is even somewhat to blame. I mean, he was sort of creeping forward a lot and kind of distracting both the referee and Ben instead of just kind of being out of the field to play. Ultimately, it was just an unfortunate situation where all three members kind of acted out of line at times. And it's unfortunate because if one member acted just differently in the moment, we could have had a completely different result. I mean, who knows? Jake might have just come forward and thrown another right hand, the fight would have been over. But we don't know that. I mean, Ben's got a good chin. He's got great cardio. We might have potentially gotten robbed of a really good, long, drawn-out war. So, I mean, not a robbery. The fight was definitely not rigged by any stretch of the imagination, but just an unfortunate situation. And yes, I do feel the stoppage was premature. So that's the breakdown, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and please leave your comments below what you think of the stoppage. Do you think it was too early? Do you think it was called right at the right time? Please let me know in the comments. My next video is going to be the breakdown on the actual fight, and then, we're going to move on to some other stuff, hopefully Logan Paul, KSI breakdowns, and all that good stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and this is Kiwi MMA, over and out.